Greetings and welcome back to the channel. I'm glad you guys are here. I hope you're doing well. You're watching the most objective analytic magic review channel here on YouTube. Today I have a requested magic review for you guys. We're taking a look at Eddie McColl's practical second deals. Now you can pick this up for 15 pounds or about $20 directly from Eddie McColl. You'll get a 48-minute instructional video where Eddie McColl teaches you the two main types of second deals, goes over lots of tips and nuances, and teaches you two routines you can use to practice the move. As usual, I'm gonna leave you guys some timestamps in the description below if you wanna skip ahead to any part of this review. You may remember about 2 years ago around this time, I did a review on Eddie McColl's false shuffle project, and that was an excellent resource for learning how to do table false shuffles. I still recommend it to this day. Eddie McColl is a Scottish magician, as I mentioned back in that review too. He's an expert of sleight of hand with playing cards, and I kind of put him in the old school category because obviously he has a wealth of experience and knowledge. So I'm going to go over what you can expect here on this download. I'm going to go over my impressions and analysis, give you guys my objective review of this material, do a head-to-head comparison with other stuff that exists out there, give you some final recommendations, which is why you guys come and watch these reviews. So what can we expect on this? Or actually, let's first start about what is the second deal if you're not familiar with it. This is a gambling sleight or a card move that originated in the gambling world, where basically you're dealing the second card off of the deck instead of the top card. So it enables you to control the top card and you can deal it to whoever you want. Today, this is widely used in gambling demonstrations, but it's also used in a myriad of card routines. So I'm sure that, like me, you've probably come across a card routine where they say you have to do a second deal. And so it behooves you to learn the move as well as you can. And so I'm gonna go over especially why I think that this download is something that you should pay attention to. But let's first just do a quick breakdown of what you can expect to learn here on this. So Eddie McColl starts out with the strike second deal, which is the most common type of second deal because it's the easier of the two. He teaches the move meticulously and you get multiple camera angles. I think he shows you the move in like 4 different angles. He shows you the basic strike second, and then he goes into an underhand stud style second deal. He also shows you a fingertip strike second, which I've never seen anyone else teach, so that's kind of nice. He shows you a push over subtlety that you can use with a strike second, which it looks amazing. When you watch that, you can see that it looks invisible, like you can't see anything. So that's really a nice little subtlety you may want to add there. And then he shows you, of course, close-up angles of the move. Then he moves into the push-off second, and he gives you a bunch of tips, talks a lot about like the grip, rhythm, of course, and timing, and then shows you the basic push-off second. He does pay a lot of attention to not just the hand holding the deck, but also the taking hand, shows you where you should place your thumb. He shows you a bunch of different ways of taking the push-off second. He shows you a lapel style take. He shows you a stud style take as well as a pinch style take. At the end, he goes over 2 very basic routines. He goes over Read 'em and Weep by Steve Forte, and this is a very simple routine to practice your second dealing, where you deal out 5 cards on the table and one of them is an ace. You gather them up, you give the deck a cut, you say we can do better, deals out another 5 cards. Now you've got 2 aces, gathers them up, gives the deck a cut, deals them out again. Now you've got 3 aces, and so on and so forth. And it's just a very basic exercise. It's almost really a drill, and it's very simple and easy to learn. Then he goes over Roy Walton's Cannibal cards, where he shows you a routine where you deal out a pair that have 4 different cards in between them. You gather them up. You explain that the cannibals are going to slowly consume the cards. You deal the cards out now, but now there's only 3 cards in between the cannibals or the mates. You gather them up. Again, you deal them out. Now there's only 2 cards. Again, one more time, there's only 1 card. And then finally, there's no cards in between the cannibals. And then the cleanup is that you reverse everything and you deal out all the cards. And now you find that there's 4 indifferent cards in between the mates. Those are the 2 routines. And the Roy Walton routine is super simple and basic. And I think you're gonna like that a lot. That's what you can expect here on this download. You know, my impressions of this are that I thought this was amazing. A lot of the material that he teaches here is stuff that I haven't seen or remember since I read Ed Marlowe's book on seconds, middles, and bottoms. A lot of this stuff, the tips and the finesses really are priceless. Really, that's what I'm gonna say, they really are priceless. I really liked Eddie McColl's take on the second deal because there are so many of these instructional videos where their emphasis is more on the technique and trying to get the brief as small as possible. And that's because there are really 2 schools of thought here. One school of thought is you're doing the second deal to show your magician friend. You're like, hey, check out my second deal. Look how invisible it looks, right? That's one school of thought. And maybe you've tried to learn a second deal and maybe you've given up because you're like, oh my God, my second deal looks terrible, right? Whereas here, Eddie McColl's second deal that he's teaching you is more a practical second deal that you're gonna use in the real world in your magic routine where the spectator doesn't know you're dealing a second. And the idea is that you're trying to learn a second that they're not going to even suspect that you're dealing something other than the top card. Eddie McColl, I really liked how he really focused more on that kind of second deal because he shows you that timing and rhythm are more important than how small the brief is. And he demonstrates it very convincingly on this download. So I really liked that a lot. I thought that was excellent. I really liked all the small finesses he gives you. I also liked how he also put an emphasis not just on the hand holding the cards, but also the taking hand, because I think that that's important as well. And the 2 routines he gives you to practice are invaluable. They're excellent because once you learn them, you'll never forget. I'm going to mention in a moment the other downloads that you can expect to find out there where you'll learn drills and stuff, but a lot of those are routines that you'll learn, and then if you put the deck of cards down, you'll totally forget how to do them because they're complicated. So that's my initial impression of this material. Let's go over the objective rating of this. You are going to notice that the rating is a little different than other products because I'm rating a lecture on a move, okay? So the first category is the demonstration. How well does your teacher demonstrate the move? Because if they can't demonstrate the move to you, well, first of all, they probably shouldn't be teaching it to you, and second of all, you're not going to get a good idea of what it should look like. And Eddie McColl did an excellent job demonstrating this all throughout the download. Constantly does the move at 4 different angles. It doesn't get any better than that. I give him a 5 out of 5 for the demonstration. Next category is the teaching. As I mentioned, he meticulously teaches this. I have to give him 5 out of 5, and you're going to learn it from multiple different angles. You're going to learn lots on, like I said, the rhythm, the timing, your hand position, and all of those things. It's like years and years of experience that is teaching you here. Definitely worth it. I give it 5 out of 5 for teaching. The next category is the tips and the finesses. He gives you a wealth of tips and finesses. I rate that as 4 out of 5 for what you're going to get there in terms of that. And the next category is going to be how does this stand up in comparison with other instructionals out there? And I would rate that as 4 out of 5 as well. And the reason is because it is as good, if not better, than most other instructional downloads out there on the second deal. And the 2 main instructionals out there that I would say are really head-to-head comparison with this is Jason England's take on the second deal and Alex Pandrea's second deal 2.0. I think both of those products are, things that are, the only other real instructionals out there that you should pay attention to other than this. Jason England, he does a really good job teaching you a technical strike second deal. The one thing I would say about Jason England's instructionals that I found could have been better was his routines that he teaches you, like Martin Nash's routine to practice the strike second, unfortunately are really complicated, and unless you're using it every single day, you will quickly forget it. And so I think that Eddie McColl's take on the strike second in terms of the routines he gives you are better than the ones that Jason England gives you. The other thing is that Jason England barely teaches you the push-off second in his instructionals that I have, whereas I learned a lot more from Eddie McColl's. The comparison is Alex Pandrea. Alex Pandrea's second deal 2.0 is excellent in terms of learning a push-off second. If you want to learn a push-off second and that's all you're interested in, I would say check out Alex Pandrea's download, because it's amazing for the push-off second, not so good for a strike second, although he does go over it. Again, there's a lot of tips and finesses that you're not going to get in comparison with Eddie McColl's version or Jason England's when you compare them to Alex Pandrea's. So there's always these trade-offs, but those are the main materials out there if you want to learn a strike second. If you're interested in gambling demos, if you're someone like Jason Ledine who's putting out gambling demos on YouTube, then I would suggest you just pick all three of them up, really. So again, I would rate this as a 4 out of 5 when I compare it to other products. Finally, the price. The price for this I would rate as 4 out of 5 because it's priced right. $20 is not too much to learn a move that you're going to spend a couple of months practicing. So I can't rate it 5 out of 5 because it's not free. So I rate it 4 out of 5, which is pretty close overall. So my final rating for this is 4.4 out of 5, highly favorable. Again, I would highly recommend this to you guys if you want to learn how to do a second deal that you're going to use in your magic routines. Now, in terms of any negatives on this, like what are the real negatives I think that were here were that I think Eddie McColl could have talked a little bit more about his own experiences with the second deal. Maybe he could have talked more about how long it took him to learn the second deal, and maybe like what were the big hurdles he had. I think that could have just added to it if he added a little more of his own personal experience. In terms of other materials you may want to take a look at, I did mention Ed Marlowe's Seconds, Middles, and Bottoms book, and you can still find that on eBay. It's an excellent resource. There also was a book that was published in the 70s by Russell Barnhart. It was called 2 Second Deals, and I have it in a box somewhere. And it's funny because some of the tips and finesses that I learned from that manuscript from the 70s were stuff that Eddie McColl goes over on this download. So those are some other resources I could mention to you. In terms of what do I think you should totally stay away from, I would recommend you totally stay away from Daniel Madison's masterclass. And the main reason is because he'll try to convince you that the push-off second is a bad move. All throughout that instructional video, he actually does a really poor job even demonstrating the second deal and makes excuses saying that he hasn't used it in a long time. So I would just recommend you stay away from that. Anyway, summing up, this is an excellent resource for learning how to do the second deal. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, just leave them for me below. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning into my magic reviews, and I'll see you on the next one.